Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us for today's Thursday with AARP Wisconsin. Before we get to our guests, of course, just a couple of reminders. If you're looking for information on upcoming virtual events or regarding the vaccine or caregiving information, you can always visit our website below, which is aarp.org/Wisconsin. Also, remember the Friendly Voice Initiative. This, of course, is free. You could be any age, and you do not need to be an AARP member to enjoy this initiative. All you have to do is go to the website below or the phone number. You put a request in for yourself or for your loved one to receive a phone call from one of our trained AARP volunteers. You could put a request in for a daily, weekly, or monthly phone call. And once again, this is no cost. And sometimes it's just really nice to hear a voice on the other end. So please make sure to check out that. And if anything, you can also forward it on to one of your loved ones or to your friends or family. So today, of course, we have one of my favorite guests, Miss Helen Marks Dicks from AARP Wisconsin, and she's going to talk a little bit about the state of Wisconsin budget and also how your opinion and voice can be heard regarding to the upcoming Joint Finance Committee. Hello, Helen.
Hello, Amber.
Always good to see you. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. We're excited to have you today.
It's exciting to be here.
Thank you. What was interesting is the whole reason for this show too, Helen, is when we were talking, not on this show, but just off script, about Joint Finance Committee and how important it is that, people may not know how to maneuver through the system, may not even know that they can still be heard even virtually, and how much their opinion and voice can make such a difference. So that's the reason I'm glad that we were able to have you on the show today. So today we're going to be talking about how to influence the state budget. And I know my dear Miss Helen is such an influencer, and that's why we love you. But why should I care, and why should I do anything about it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, 80% of all the money that's spent in this state goes to the budget. So, if you're interested in education, if you're interested in roads, if you're interested in anything that receives any kind of government money, you should be paying attention. And the reason you should care about it is you don't realize how much power you have. There's a part of the budget cycle, and it's what we're in now, when they go out looking for public comment. And elected officials really want to know how things affect their constituents. So you sending in a little note saying, I really want you to support caregivers because I did all this work for my mom and it cost me X number of dollars and it would be nice to get some help, makes all the difference in the world. Much better than my statistics and my arguments and my nice handouts. It's really the stories of people that make a difference.
And Helen, even though I know we're talking right now more on a state level, but this also could go for your county too. If there's a county budget, that you could still give your opinion, and there's still such an opportunity for you to voice your opinion.
Yeah, there really is. I think people underestimate. I have a rule of like 5, 10, 15, and I developed this rule when I worked in the Capitol. When we got 5 calls on the same subject, we started paying attention. When we got 10 calls, we'd alert the elected official. And by 15 calls, you were to the point where you're saying, you have to do this. This is a problem with constituents. And so I think people underestimate how much their single email or their phone call makes a difference. And you don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be sophisticated. You just have to say how it affects you.
And so with the pandemic, do I have more or less of an opportunity to influence the budget?
Well, actually, the pandemic has been a blessing for people who have never been able to travel. Normally, what happens is that you do these hearings in person and hundreds of people show up and you wait hours and hours and hours to testify and you're limited to 2 minutes. They're going to have a virtual hearing, which means people who normally wouldn't actually physically travel to a hearing could be able to do it virtually. So no matter where you are, you can do the virtual hearing. But they also put up a web page And through the whole month of April, they're accepting comments on their webpage. And that is a wonderful opportunity because you can put in 1 or 2 sentences, or you can put in a full paragraph. You probably can't tell your life story because there's probably a cutoff at some point, but it's an opportunity that no matter where you are and no matter where your time constraints are, you can work from dawn to dusk, but you can still go on the website at night. And so it's, the pandemic in an interesting way has allowed more people to participate if they're aware of it. And of course, if they have broadband. I mean, it always helps to have a little broadband.
And I know we're going to be going through an example shortly. And I do have to say, I actually went through the AARP website and made my comments. It was super easy. And Helen, you inspired me to do that, because if we are wanting our members and non-members, our community members to do this, then I wanted to do it also. So I found it extremely easy, and it does give you a really nice opportunity to speak your mind. And it does really feel like I am contributing to the community, which I think is needed.
And, I presume, Amber, that you went ahead and did one of the issues that I've been talking to the staff about all the time. But let's say you weren't an AARP member, and let's say your real issue was special education, something that we have nothing on our website about. But you can still go to our website and click the link and still get to the Joint Finance webpage and make your comments. It's not restricted to members. It's not restricted to people that are speaking on our issue. We just wanted to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to let the Joint Finance know what's important to them.
And speaking of that, what are the issues that you and AARP Wisconsin are working on?
Well, we have 5 big ones: caregiver supports, both paid and family caregivers, reduction in the price of prescription drugs, broadband expansion. We want all of you to be able to get on the website and leave comments.
Yes.
The expansion of Badger Care, so more people are covered. And then finally, some work and save programs so people can save for retirement. Those are our big 5. But there are other good things in the budget. And so people, whatever you care passionately about, you should express your opinion on.
So can we go maybe step by step with the website?
Sure.
We'll be pulling it up shortly. And while we're waiting, actually, Helen, I know you just mentioned the work and save as one of the issues, and Lisa Lampkins with the AARP Wisconsin office will be one of our guests next Thursday talking about that. So if you are watching right now and have not heard of that program, definitely come back here next Thursday. So I will leave it up to you now, Helen. It looks like we are on the AARP Wisconsin website.
We are on the AARP Wisconsin website, and then you scroll down a little and it says AARP is fighting for you in the budget. And that, when you click on that, you then scroll down a little, and I'm counting on Darren to do this. And so what you come to, it has, a lot of verbiage explaining the background, but we then have little buttons. Just before where it says Wisconsin priority issues, it says that you can learn more about the budget hearings and submit comments to the Joint Finance public comment website. If you click on that, you can go ahead and be attached to the Joint Finance website. Very easy to fill out. They ask you for your name because, they want to know whose constituent you are. And they ask you if you have an organization, and which if you're an AARP member, let them know. And then they go ahead and give you a chance to comment. These 5 red buttons that were right there were our 5 priority issues. So if you want to know what we're fighting for and get some talking points, you can hit any one of those buttons. But as I say, if your issue is water, if your issue is our issues here are caregiving, high-speed internet, prescription drugs, Badger Care expansion, and retirement security. But let's say your issue is, say, clean water, or it's special education. You can still click on that Joint Finance link and go ahead and put your comments in. Now, there's no reason why you can't do this more than once. So if you have a little story to tell about caregiving, go in and do your caregiving story. But if you also have a little story you want to tell about the state of broadband in your community, go ahead and do it a second time and tell your broadband story. The people who are going to look at these, look at them at the end of every day to see what people are concerned about. And they really care what their constituents think. So your little personal stories on your 2 or 3 line comments are very, very powerful.
And Helen, I know you mentioned that our 5 issues right there, so the caregiving, high-speed internet, prescription drugs, Badger care, and retirement security are 5 issues, but you kind of mentioned, if it is about education, if it's about clean water, that they can still click on that Joint Finance Committee link and still make their comments and still be heard. So they could still come to the AARP website, even if maybe their issues or their concerns might be a little bit different than AARP's.
That's right. We're trying not only to make it easier for our members to talk about our issues, but we're also trying to make it possible for other people. Mm-hmm. And so for this first phase, all the information is going to the Joint Finance Committee because it's a public hearing time. By next month, we'll be encouraging people to go directly to their own legislators. And because everybody has to eventually vote on the budget. So you can come back to this website and we'll be telling you what's going on, where we are in the process, and what you can do to be involved. The link up there might be different. It might be the link that we put in that gets you to your own personal state senator and your own state representative, so you can send them information about what's going on, or your reaction to what you read in the paper.
So the next step, so if we have a viewer right now that's saying, I want my voice to be heard, I am passionate about a caregiver, I'm a caregiver myself, I'm going through a lot, I wish there were more resources, they should come to the AARP website, go to the Joint Finance Committee link that Darren clicked on. They can make their comments, and as you said, they're going to probably collect some of their information like name and probably zip code, I think is what I had to put in. Then after that, what would be the time frame then, do you think, that people would come back to the AARP website for next steps?
Well, I want you to keep an eye on the public comment website because there is going to be a virtual hearing opportunity, and that will be announced on this website. And so sign up if you want to give testimony. Now, I have to warn you, testimony is only 2 minutes. So you have to be prepared to be pretty concise and practice and rehearse to make sure you stay in the time limits. But once we get through the public hearing phase, which is the end of the month, then they start actually voting on the procedures. And there's 2 important things. The Joint Finance Committee is actually doing the voting, but they usually go back to their caucus and ask people what the legislators are hearing from their constituents. So that will be another round of activities. So by the beginning, once you sign up for the virtual hearing, beginning of May, come back. Okay. And we will have, on a regular basis, we will be putting action alerts on our website saying, this week, this is what they're voting on. If you have concerns about this, or we'll give you a link to where to get more information about what they're voting on. So you can use our website as kind of your home base about what to do next and what's going on.
I must say, and we'll get to Jim's question next, I must say that's why I always push our website in the beginning and during the show, is because really it is a catch-all. It has information about Joint Finance Committee, advocacy, outreach, virtual workshops. So yeah, definitely if you're right now thinking, what do I do next? Definitely follow up with going to our website because you can find this information. And now we're going to be pulling up Jim's question. What exactly should we ask of the Joint Finance Committee when we go on the website and click the link?
Well, you want to ask, depends on what you're talking about, but basically what we have on our website is the proposals the governor put in, and that's what they start with. So right now we're saying, say, for instance, the governor has good proposals on caregiving, keep them in the budget. because some people are talking. And if you scroll down, each thing we're talking about, we give you a little blurb about the background. We give you a little blurb about what's in the state budget. And we give the kind of the key notes that you can tell people. But once again, let's take caregiving. Average person spends $7,000 on their loved one if they're the caregiver. So that's a nice statistic. I can give them that. But what would be nice is an example of this is that I paid my mother's property taxes for the fourth quarter of the year, or I purchased the folding wheelchair. Whatever it is that it shows that this provision helps you personally. So we have the talking points, we have the high level theoretical stuff there, but to the extent that you can personalize it, use our stuff, feel free to use it. But if you can personalize it, it's even better.
And Helen, I know you've mentioned too that even if you're not an AARP member, if you happen to be watching this, you just happen to come across it, that your voice still needs to be heard, whether you're a member or not.
Well, you know, we're big proponents of citizen democracy. We encourage our members to vote. We're nonpartisan, but we encourage our members to vote. We encourage our members to participate in government. We encourage our members to participate in their community. And so, you know, whether it's livable communities or some other thing, we are really very committed to people participating and having their voice heard. So this is one more way to do it. And, you know, if you don't know the value of being an AARP member and you just want to use our website, go ahead and use our website.
Absolutely. I always tell people there's so much information, you could get lost in it in a good way. Helen, I also, when we were talking about the five issues, and if, you know, one of our viewers is looking at this now thinking, well, you know, I don't really have any of those issues, just to confirm that you mentioned that even if those 5 issues are not impacting them, I mean, they could maybe speak on behalf, obviously you were talking about the story, maybe a neighbor, a loved one, but there still is opportunity for them to get their voice heard even without these 5 issues. I just want to make sure our viewers know that.
Yes, and remember, I'm going to use broadband as an example. You might have the greatest broadband system in the world, so you don't need the expansion. But you can get on and say you support the expansion because, after all, your kids have gone to school with broadband. You've actually been able to work from your home because of broadband. Why does doing this affect you? And so the more you can do that, the better. And as I say, you can be speaking on behalf of yourself or your neighbor, or just because you think it's good public policy.
And Helen, is there any particular age? I know with the AARP group, it's, you know, 45 and older. If somebody under the age of 45 is watching this, there's no age limit on any of the items that we talked about, the issues.
No, and you know, you'd be surprised how many young people are doing caregiving. And boy, the broadband really affected really young people in school age and stuff. So I don't really care who you are. The only thing I ask, if you're using our website, is that you do the usual politeness that AARP tends to do. I don't want people, you know, using our website to rag on people or to call them names or any of that stuff. This is to advocate for ideas, but anybody who's advocating for ideas and trying to influence the process is welcome to use it.
And Helen, before we wrap up the show, if you can just go over again, what makes a compelling remark? If they were to go on the Joint Finance Committee website right after the show, they want to talk about caregiving or broadband, if you could just give some tips on what would make a very compelling remark.
So you start out by saying what you're talking about. I'm writing about caregiving or, you know, whatever. And then you say how it affects you. And then you say how it affects the district. So caregiving is important to me because I take care of my 92-year-old mother. Many people in our community are taking care of loved ones. And then what you want them to do. You always have to remember to ask them what you want them to do. So you ask them to support the caregiving provisions in the budget. You ask them to increase the funding for a program. You make a definite ask. So it's who you are, why it's important to you, why it should be important to them, and the ask. 4 basic things.
And like I told you, I went through it because I was like, well, if I'm gonna be talking about it, I went through it. And it really was easy. I went through the AARP website and they asked for a little information. Like I said, I think it was first name, last name, and I think zip code, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe phone number, email, but otherwise it was very easy. And I love the fact that we had you on today, Helen, because can you imagine if all of our members, all of our non-members, anybody who's just passionate and wants to hear their voice, their voice being heard, can go on Joint Finance Committee and make all those remarks. They would be reading them for days.
They would be reading them for days. And even if they only, let's say they got overwhelmed. Let's say let's say 1 million people went to the website. Even if they just had a staff member sit there and take a tally every day of how many remarks they got about caregiving, how many they got about roads, how many they got about school. There would be some indication of what people care about. And I think the individual voices make a difference. And doing individual voices is so much more powerful than getting 1,000 signatures on a petition. It really is. The individual voice makes the difference.
So the action step would be to go to our website, go to the Joint Finance Committee, make sure that they're always checking back on the AARP Wisconsin website so they know next steps then.
Yep. And we'll keep you up to date. The process is going to take a while. As I said, by the end of April, they'll have all the public comments. And then in May and June, they'll be voting on the actual proposals. And eventually, both houses have to pass the same budget in exactly the same form. So the goal, of course, is always to have it done by June 30th. We're not going to make it this year, I don't think. But, the truth of the matter is we have a system. We're one of the few states in the nation where if we go past our budget deadline, everything just keeps perking along. We don't shut down or any of those things, but check back because there'll be some issues that they need a little pushing on. There'll be some issues they need more stories on. And, follow the process and we will keep our website up to date and keep the information flowing.
Great. Thank you, Helen. As always, you always come on our show, A, to make me laugh, which I appreciate, and B, you always have such valuable information to share with our viewers. So thank you as always.
Well, I'm always glad to be here.
Thank you. Well, you'll be back, so we will definitely see you soon. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And if you are viewing also right now, or if you're watching this in replay, I wanted to share some upcoming events with you, which you can find on the AARP Wisconsin website, which Livable Communities 101. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that initiative, that it's coming up on the 13th. April 14th, AARP Wisconsin, in collaboration with the Milwaukee Historical Society, will be doing Take Me Out to the Ball Game, which is all about the love of baseball, especially in the county of Milwaukee. And Sisters with AARP Live, there's also the AARP Lacrosse Disrupt Aging Book Club. And this is about the 3rd chapter, which is Passion, Risk, and Adventure in the 25 Years After 50. And then April 20th, we're going to be doing Geology Bingo. So there's a lot of really fun events coming up. We'd love for you to join us. Also, please remember the Small Dollar Big Impact Grant. That application will be due April 21st. And if you recall, it's for organizations to apply for a small grant of up to $1,000 for creative and innovative ideas for their community. You can find that at the website below, which is aarp.org/WI capitalize SD BI. Also, the Challenge Grant, which is through the AARP Livable Communities, that is going to be due next week, April 14th. You can find information at the aarp.org/community challenge. And once again, we'd love to see more applications come to through the state of Wisconsin and bring that money back to our home state. As I stated earlier in the show, so the next show, which April is actually Financial Literacy Month. So next week we are going to be joined by Lisa Lampkins with AARP Wisconsin, and also J. Michael Collins with UW-Madison to talk about the Work and Safe program and also financial literacy just kind of as a whole. So if you're interested in that show, please come back here next Thursday, April 15th at noon Central Time, which is either here at our Facebook.com page or our YouTube page. I want to thank once again Helen. I want to thank Darren, our producer, for always doing such a great job. And I want to thank you for viewing today's show. If you are watching this in replay, feel free to share this on your Facebook page. But otherwise, we will see you next Thursday. Until then, be safe.